Martin Truex Jr. may decide on retirement sooner rather than later, and a surprising name may be a legit candidate for a 2311 seat. How's it going, y'all? My name is Eric. Welcome to Out of the Groove. Hope you're doing well. Midweek edition of the show. Real quick plug, tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern time on this channel, I'll be live with some of my YouTube buddies talking all things Sonoma, previewing Iowa, discussing charters, silly season, Shane Van Gisbergen, and so much more. Hope to see you there. 8 p.m. Eastern time. We'll be live right here. First on the agenda today, if industry rumblings are to be believed, Martin Truex Jr. may make a retirement decision by the end of this month. The Joe Gibbs Racing driver is 43 years old, will turn 44 soon. He is the oldest full-time NASCAR Cup Series driver currently. He currently sits 5th in the regular season standings, but is still looking for his first win in nearly a full year. Nobody knows exactly what's going on inside of Martin Truex Jr.'s head, but we have been in a similar position now for 3 straight years. He keeps kicking the can further down the road, but it sounds like Joe Gibbs Racing is putting some real pressure on him this season, considering there are many eligible free agents now on the market. I don't know what Martin Truex Jr.'s decision will be. It sounds like many in the industry believe he's leaning towards retiring at the end of this season. That could very well be the case. We have to ask the question, is Martin Truex Jr. having any fun? Because that's what matters to this guy at this point, where he's at in his life. He's won a Cup championship. He's won Xfinity championships. He's a 34-time Cup winner. He's been to 5 championship fours. He has accomplished a lot in NASCAR. Still looking for a Daytona 500, sure, but the guy has had an extremely impressive career. At this point, the question is, am I enjoying it? The grind, the competition. And honestly, I'm not so sure. I just mentioned it, Truex has not won a race since last July. Of course, last year was bookended by that terrible playoff collapse. He's been so close to winning this season, but you saw he got a little snippy with Coach Gibbs after losing Richmond. Sonoma this past weekend, he was battling for the win when he ran out of gas. I know Truex has said in the past that he's bad at making big decisions. It sure feels like the universe is trying to make this decision for him. I'm not going to dive into Martin's personal life, his history. I don't know the guy like that. 99.99999% of you watching don't know him like that. I feel it would be somewhat disrespectful to try and make any big, bold assumptions there. I'm going to try and focus on the racetrack where, again, it doesn't seem like Truex is having a whole lot of fun lately. Rumors suggest he's being pressured by Joe Gibbs to make a decision soon, and I think Joe Gibbs has every right to put that kind of pressure on him. They shouldn't be expected to wait until August like they did last year. Joe Gibbs Racing has given Martin Truex Jr. winning race cars for many years. Martin Truex Jr. has kept Joe Gibbs Racing on their toes for 3 straight years. I think this time around he owes them a quick response. There are so many good young drivers available this free agency. We've talked about Josh Berry with his connection to Rodney Childers. There's Noah Gragson, his ties to Bass Pro Shops. Chase Briscoe, who's proven he knows how to make a deep playoff run. Shoot, even Eric Jones in recent weeks has been linked to his old team, Joe Gibbs Racing. Not to mention there's Chandler Smith waiting in the Xfinity Series. There are also so many sponsors tied to the 19. Bass Pro Shops I just mentioned. There's Auto Owners Insurance, Reesers, you name it. Many of those companies may be tied closely to Martin Truex Jr. Joe Gibbs Racing needs time then to sort things out for 2025. So long story short, Joe Gibbs has every right to demand a quicker answer from Martin Truex Jr. I think he owes them that. I listened to Kevin Harvick's Happy Hour podcast this week, and I agree with something he said over there. I want Martin Truex Jr. to make a prompt decision so that the industry, and more importantly, his fans, have the opportunity to celebrate him. Like I said earlier, 30-plus Cup wins, 2017 champion. He won a couple of Xfinity Series titles. The guy is a clear-cut NASCAR Hall of Famer. I know he may not always seek out the spotlight, but I'd love for his fans to have the opportunity to celebrate him while he's still here racing at the end of his career. Speaking from some experience, 2017 was miserable as a Matt Kenseth fan. He didn't win a race until the very end of the season, but then all year was facing questions about his future. Will he be allowed to return to Joe Gibbs Racing? Will another team pick him up? Matt Kenseth didn't formally announce his departure from Joe Gibbs Racing until the third to last race of the season. So outside of Phoenix the next week where he won, and then Homestead the week after that, fans didn't have long to say goodbye to Matt the Brat. I know he came back and raced some in 2018 and then obviously 2020, but that was the COVID year, and honestly most people forgot he was on track by the end of the season. So Matt Kenseth, I feel, never got the true send-off he had deserved. Martin Truex Jr. may not care about that, but I'm sure many of his fans would love the opportunity to cheer him on one last time, to know this is the end of the line. Martin Truex Jr. is going to go into the NASCAR Hall of Fame without question. If this is the final year, which we still do not know, I hope he gives the entire industry a chance to celebrate what he's been able to do on the racetrack all these years. So we'll see what happens. I don't know what his decision will be. I don't think anyone knows for sure. Speculation seems to be leaning towards, yes, he will announce his retirement. I could see it, but we don't actually know. Sounds like we could find out here in just a few short weeks, however. Let me know in the comments below. Do you think Martin Truex Jr. will retire at the end of this season? Do you think he owes Joe Gibbs a quicker response than in previous years? Leave a comment down below. While we're on the topic of free agency, there's an interesting rumor going around. My friends at the Daily Downforce reported on it earlier this week. Then I heard Lee Spencer on with Performance Racing Network also say the same thing. But the rumor is that Riley Herbst, NASCAR Xfinity Series driver, is being linked to 2311. No one is reporting that this is a done deal or that it's happening, just that Herbst is a candidate for a third 2311 Cup seat. We've also heard in the past that Corey Heim is a candidate for that ride. This is a very interesting rumor. Nothing against Riley Herbst personally. I don't think I've even had a real conversation with the guy. I don't think he's good enough for full-time Cup Series racing. I know he's had a couple of solid top 10 runs at super speedways, but let's be real. He's 25 years old, and he's been in top Xfinity Series equipment for nearly 5 straight years now. He has all but one win to show for it. Missed the playoffs last season, the same year his teammate went on to win the whole damn thing. I get that he had some equipment failure down the stretch. He shouldn't have been in that position to begin with. Riley Herbst's best points finish in the Xfinity Series is 10th. That's it. I'm sorry. That's not good enough to race on Sundays, to be a legitimate Cup Series driver for a legitimate borderline championship contending Cup Series team. That's what 2311 is. Riley Herbst is not ready for that opportunity. What this comes down to, obviously, is money. Every race team needs money. And Riley Herbst certainly comes with some money. His family owns the Terribles convenience store chain. I think through that relationship, Herbst has been tied to Monster Energy for many years now. Of course, Monster Energy sponsors Tyler Reddick, already at 2311, so there's a marriage there perhaps. That's maybe where the connection begins. Point is, every team needs money. They're never going to turn down more cash. I completely get it, but at the same time, 2311 Racing is the same team that just a couple years ago went out and got Tyler Reddick. Pretty sure they bought him out of his RCR contract. Didn't he have 1 year remaining? How did that get settled? I imagine 2311 or Toyota forked over some cash. They went and got Tyler Reddick because in their opinion, he was one of, if not the best young drivers potentially on the market. They figured the sponsorship out later. They saw someone they wanted who could put them over the top and they went and got him. I respect them for that. That's 2311. Is 2311 now a team that's going to take Riley Herbst money? Those seem very different, very opposite ends of the spectrum. Again, I understand they just opened up Airspeed. That cost $10, $15, $20 million. What was it? A lot of money, maybe more than that. Many millions of dollars to open up Airspeed. If they need a third charter, that's probably at least $20 million. There's no new charter agreement yet. You can tell that Hamlin, Curtis Polk, Michael Jordan, that's a sticking point. They're not happy about that. Money is always a concern. Riley Herbst brings money. I get it. That doesn't mean I'm a fan of this move, if it even happens. This is just a rumor. Just a rumor now being mentioned by a couple of different sources. So it's something to keep an eye on for sure. I don't mean to hate on Riley Herbst. Seems like a nice guy, good dude, great run at Las Vegas last fall. That one win he did get was dominant. But one win in 4+ Xfinity Series seasons in top equipment, that's not Cup Series material. I don't believe so. So we'll see what happens. Corey Heim may not come with as much funding, obviously, but I think he is a significantly more Cup Series ready talent despite being 4 years younger. we'll see what happens over there. 2311 may not even buy a charter this year. Charters may not be anything by the end of this year at the rate negotiations are going. See yesterday's video. And speaking of yesterday's video, before I let you go here today, yesterday we talked charters. Today we talked silly season. Later this week, my buddy Brennan Poole and I are releasing a new episode of our podcast, Power Hour. And in that upcoming episode, Brennan and I touched on both of these topics. I want to share a short clip with you guys, a little teaser, if you will, from our upcoming episode of Power Hour. Be sure to check it out. I wanted to ask you then about the Xfinity team, because Stewart Haas just won the Xfinity Series championship with Cole Custer. They also field the 98 for Riley Herbst. There's been some chatter that even though the Stewart may be gone completely, some of Gene Haas's people might stick around and operate an Xfinity team in some capacity next year, which I don't know if they'll stay with Ford, but Ford desperately needs seats in the Xfinity series, it seems like. So what have you heard on that front? I know you're in the throes of silly season free agency yourself, but what have you heard out of, could Stewart Haas still have an Xfinity presence?
Yeah, I think it'll just be a Haas. And it'll probably be, I think I'm hearing that they're still going to have the two Xfinity cars. So I'm assuming the 98 and the 00 will stay the same. But, I've heard all kinds of rumors too that maybe Joe Custer's getting one of the four charters, and they're going to move and be, I think, in the Xfinity building. I think it's a separate shop. I'm not totally sure, but and run a cup car into. I mean, you hear those rumors. You don't know if it's true or not, or what, but I mean, I could see that happening, and maybe Haas keeping one of them. I don't know how the charters are broke down between him and Tony, right? You don't know those breakdowns, but or how any of that works, but that's certainly, I could see something like that happening, and it just being Haas,
especially if they can't
just
sell
being
all
Xfinity
four.
Team.
I mean, you sell.
That's what's crazy to me. You and I were talking before the show, and
with no charter agreement either, like that. Until that gets ironed out, Front Row took the plunge. They just bought one, but you hear 2311 and even Trackhouse, they're like, we're probably going to buy one, but let's wait for the ink to get to dry. You know?
Yeah. It's an interesting deal. And who's going to buy another one? Who's going to buy another one out of the teams that are out? Like who Roush, RFK, maybe.
There's other teams interested,
but even Brad, though, at Wilkesboro was like, we're not really ready to do that ourselves. Like, we're just not ready. We don't have the people. It's like, okay, I could see that. Like, who?
I know. It's a great question, which is why if Joe Custer or Haas keep one charter, and at least for a year, like that's believable. I'd buy that theory, no doubt.
But and I don't know. I think Cole Custer very well could be driving that car. Could be just driving a Haas Cup car next year, and that'll be that. But I mean, again, we're just kind of speculating. So nobody come for me, please. I'm just talking.
We're just trying to make sense of it. We're just trying to connect all the threads and just like, this could happen. Yeah. Oh, but here, this could do as well. It's a puzzle. It's just a puzzle that everyone, because we're bored. It's June. It's the dog days of the regular season. We gotta have something to try and, to keep our brain active, to focus on. And that's what this is. So, the full episode of Power Hour should be up later this week. I'll keep you all posted. But thank you for watching this episode, folks. I appreciate you tuning in. Leave a like on this video if you enjoyed. Subscribe for more NASCAR content and commentary every single day. And a huge thank you to my very generous Patreon supporters. I mentioned this yesterday, but my next race I will be at is Nashville at the end of this month. Hope to see y'all there. I've got a few other races this year penciled into my calendar. I'll announce those at a later date. Have a wonderful rest of your Wednesday, folks. Hope to see you tonight. We'll be live once again at 8 o'clock Eastern time. Have a great rest of your afternoon, folks.